come to the microphone in case there's questions. Okay.
Hello, 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 hello. Can you hear me now?
Test, 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 test.
Yes.
Test.
Test. Check, check.
Test.
Hello.
Hello. Good enough?
Test 1, 2, 3,
Make sure to test 4.
4, and now I'll sing. They picked me out of choir when I was 13. Something about my voice changing and things changed, and they didn't want me in choir anymore. So, and I was never asked to sing again. So. I'm so sorry for you.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Roll call, Mr. Sincenros.
I'm here.
Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Taylor,
Here?
Mr. Sweeney,
Here?
Dr. Willingham,
Here.
Mike, Chris, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Yeah. Place your right hand over your heart. Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'll make
I'll
that
make-
motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Nobody? Okay. We'll close the public comment section. Public hearing, LCAP federal addendum update. Do we have any public comment to that one? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. Karen will give a description of what's going on during the next items. Okay. Next, do I have a motion to approve the publication of 2019-20 school accountability report cards?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Karen?
Okay, good evening. Being submitted are our annual SARCs, School Accountability Report Cards. These are required annually by CDE. We do publish them by February 1st for our community, and they are in the process of, or they will be translated into Spanish as well once they're approved. And then we'll have them available for the community. It does provide quite a bit of rich data for parents who are interested in learning about our individual school sites.
Any notable elements to it?
No, just with school closures and us not having testing data from last year, that's not included in there. Principals and Mr. Elder and Mrs. Downs work quite a bit to compile all of the data and so forth. But the largest difference is just the lack of state data.
Okay. Questions? All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Next item, I need a motion to approve the West End Special Education Local Plan Area Local Plan.
I'll make that motion.
Jan?
Good evening. Tonight I bring you the West End SELPA, West End Special Education Local Plan Area Local Plan. The plan itself is the basis of operation and administration of our special education programs within the West End SELPA area. All the agencies that are represented within the local plan have to meet the requirements, both via state and federal, that we are offering appropriate at special education programs and related services. The entire plan comes to you every 3 years for the board approval. Every year on the annual budget and the annual service plan. The only thing that you'll be approving tonight will be the section B, which is the primary change to the local plan in the governance piece.
Which is?
They have taken 2 committees within the governance piece, FAC, which is the Financial Advisory Committee, and PAC, which is the Program Advisory Committee, and have combined those 2 committees to make it the one called the SELPA Advisory Committee.
Any questions?
Yes, can you explain how that would benefit us? What those changes would bring changes for us?
As far as having the SELPA Advisory Committee, what was taking place was when things were brought forward to either the Program Advisory Committee or the Financial Advisory Committee, one would have to approve whatever was being brought forward, and then the next one would have to approve it, and then it would go to the superintendent's council. Now both committees will be working together, so there won't be several meetings.
So basically, it's more streamlined.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the information.
Is it the same membership?
Yes, it is.
Just a
It's
much
the
larger?
nine districts within this local area,
Okay.
minus Ontario Montclair.
And if I may, part of that component from the superintendent's council is for us to be able to receive a unified information related to both programming as well as to fiscal services, so that both sides of the table, or both sides of the coin, depending upon the way you look at it, are able to provide rich information to the superintendents in advance of our superintendent council meeting. So by having this as a single group versus two separate bodies, it enables each side to be able to hear specifically. So program can hear from fiscal, fiscal can hear from program. Ultimately, information is provided to the superintendents. The idea is for it to be more streamlined, but also for both sides to be able to get information in an easier way.
Any further questions? Okay, I have a motion. Thank you, John. Have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, information items, enrollment report. Dr. Moss.
So our current enrollment at Creekview is 609, Mountain View is 534, Ranch View is at 813, Grace Oakley at 614 with 2,626 total. We're currently 56 over projection. We're also currently 80% down on requests for interdistrict transfers over this time last year. Number one reason for request continues to be for magnet programs, primarily in Corona Norco or other local districts. The number of requests for outside regions is now down by 98%. We have very few requesting interdistrict transfers to Glendale, for example, Hacienda La Puente, other areas further out. For the ones that we have received, even from Corona Norco, that number is also significantly down from this time last year.
Yes.
Dr. Moss, are we still okay teacher-wise over there? We don't need to add yet at Ranchview?
No, we monitor that on a regular basis to see where we're at as far as balance, and we're currently staffed appropriately.
Additionally, it appears as though our TK numbers at the three elementaries are varied. We've got 17 at one, I believe 18 at the other, and 23. 23 at Ranchview. Are we going to even those out at some point?
Becomes challenging to even those out. We do have the option of when we have a new enrollee from TK to take them to a different school site, but we do come across challenges with our families who want them to be at their local school, even though they're not physically present within there. So we do wait for those numbers. We look to go ahead and see where we're at. We talk with the teachers. We see where we're at, but the families themselves are the driving force behind not, even though they know that they can go to a different school, the numbers could be less. The preference, especially at Ranchview, is for them to be at Ranchview.
To lessen the burden on teachers, can we move them around virtually and just have them attend a different virtual setting?
It again becomes an issue with families. When we have done that, we have great challenge with families who do not want their child moved. And even the few times we have made movement this year, the district has received information from families wanting to know the reason why in this difficult situation we're moving them from the safety of and the protected environment they have with their teacher, the relationship they've developed with their teacher, to move them to a different environment.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Staff, student attendance?
So currently, this would be for December's data, staff is at or above 90%. Our exception that we have is part-time classified at Grace Oakley at 84%. However, stating that, that's stronger than our numbers we had last year by just a little bit, and would be considered typical for an average flu season. So considering we're in the middle of a pandemic, our current numbers as far as staffing is quite strong.
And student attendance since the break? Do we have a indication?
As far as our student attendance,
Yes.
our student attendance it has not dipped. Our biggest issue is with students taking the full amount of time in class, and that at each site varies by week and also by day. So, meaning we do have students who are attending. The students who are attending on a regular basis, but we do have people who will fade out. For example, at the middle school during second period, will pop back in at third period, go out at fourth period, but we don't have as many students missing, for example, an entire day of instruction. We'll just have part of the day that they'll be missing instruction.
And how do we address those situations?
Those are being addressed currently by the principals at each of the school sites when we see repeated patterns that are happening. If it happens once, it isn't a follow-up, but if it happens on a regular basis, the principals and also our dean of students, Kelly Reyes, is working specifically across all of our school sites to look for patterns that might be coming up. And also we have our counselor from Grace Yoakley, who is assisting at Ramsview and also the other sites as necessary to address those specific issues.
Okay, any questions? All right, financial statement, Stephen?
This is the December financial statement as of obviously the end of the year. There's not much to note, no major changes. We were able to expend or at least allocate all of the COVID dollars. However, that became a moot point as it was extended another year to December the 2021.
Questions? Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Well. Here we are.
Here we are.
Job on the line, how's it going?
For our Williams quarterly report, we
Yeah.
are pleased to report zero deficiency in all three categories
We'll keep you for another month or two.
for at least another 3 months.
That's right, 3 months.
I got to monitor it for 3 months. Thank you, sir.
Any questions on the Williams Act? No.
Right, thank you.
Next item is the LCAP federal addendum update, first reading. Karen?
Yes, as you mentioned, this is the LCAP federal addendum that's being brought for a first reading. It will be brought back in February as an action item. This was first approved by the board in June of 2019. We do review it regularly. However, the state changed some of their teacher reporting definitions. And so we were required to do that. So we wanted to get it done right away, which is why this isn't cycled with a traditional LCAP. The changes to the federal addendum, as I mentioned, were the state definitions that were changed. And then there were some minor changes that we did to update based on our experience that we're having this year, addressing learning loss and so forth. So very minor changes, otherwise just to be in compliance.
Such as?
For the learning loss.
The minor changes, yes.
Okay, the minor changes would be, the minor changes would be that we address the office hours that are available to teachers. We changed how our interventions are listed and listed them as like office hours in the way that we're supporting students that we talked about last month at the board meeting. So we switched that in those directions.
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Now, once again, we do not have the principals here, so if you have a particular question on any of the school reports or activities, please feel free to contact either Dr. Moss or Jeremy or the school site directly. All right. I may have missed it, but I know some of the schools still had something in there on bullying. And I would encourage again that we emphasize that, especially with everybody being online. The risk is just that much higher because the exposure is that much greater. So if we could still encourage the principals to put something out on a monthly basis on that. Okay.
Absolutely. The principals do have information that's ongoing and they will continue with that. We also have our kindness month that I'll be providing the board information. The principals are providing me information specific on how each school site is addressing kindness month and also the Kindness Challenge, which we've done every year now. This will be our 4th year. I believe it is our 4th year for the Kindness Challenge. We do emphasize not only from the information that goes out to students and the monitoring, but also the information that each school site provides on their social media platforms to be sure to be not only encouraging kindness, but also providing additional resources and information. We also have that from our counseling services. So we continue to focus on that. That will continue to be an area of focus, and there'll be more information coming to the board again related to kindness, the Kindness Challenge, as well as the Kindness Week.
Yeah, especially considering the world at the present time, kindness is and the anti-bullying are important elements.
Agreed.
Mr. Sweeney.
I'd like to commend all 4 of the principals in their principals' messages. These are very difficult and trying times, and the 4 principals and assistant principal, Mrs. Reyes, were extremely positive, open, and loving towards their students. And if parents read these, and I hope they do, very positive stuff. And I will dovetail on what Ron said. I believe it was Mrs. Edmonds that addressed bullying, even in these times when we don't have students on campus. So I'd like to thank her for that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
If I may, I was reading through some of the newsletters from the various schools. And what stood out to me in particular is the observance of Martin Luther King Day, January 18th. That's coming up very soon. Can you please describe what we're doing in recognition?
So each of the school sites have different programs that they have for recognition. So this is, if we're not in a non-virtual world, we would have specific either ceremonies, often we have contests, et cetera, that are going on. In the virtual world, this is for each of our teachers. Our teachers are doing a variety of different activities dependent upon grade level. So the activity would be different from a first grade tie into their social studies curriculum, for example, whether it's reading children's literature as it relates to Martin Luther King Jr., and or to others who have assisted with African-American rights, Black rights throughout the years. At the junior high, it tends to be a little more rich of a exploration within social studies, but also pops up in leadership and often also within the English language arts curriculum.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you. Board Superintendent, Staff Communications. Let's start with Randall.
Well, first of all, let me say Happy New Year to all the staff and teachers and students. I learned today very sad news about LA Unified School District that 2 educators have passed away due to COVID. So I asked that our board president would give a moment of silence in recognition of our teachers that we've lost due to COVID. Please continue to be safe and social distance. And I know these are very challenging, stressful times. A lot of anxiety at home. Kids are back in the classroom, so that's definitely keeping them busy and occupied. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll do that in just a second. Okay. I'll do that in just a second. I'll go Chris first and I'll
Thank you.
do your request.
I want to just take a moment to continue to applaud all of our teachers, the way that they have come back after the Christmas break and just dove in. The kids are re-engaging and it's going very well. And if I can, as we start this new year, to any parents, any grandparents out there, I want to just encourage you to continue to be a good neighbor to the others that have kids in school. Just be that friend, reach out, connect. Hope is coming. There is hope. It's going to come to an end at some point, but let's make sure we're just being a good neighbor to all those around us.
Okay, thank you. Well, per your request, Randall, I would like to have a moment of silence for not only fellow teachers who have lost their lives, but members of the community, students, et cetera. So if we could just take a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Mr. Sweeney.
I agree with Chris. We need to focus on the positives, and there are many of those. We turn on the news and we see negative, negative, negative. But some encouraging news shared by Dr. Moss at some point today was that educators have been changed from, I believe it was 2B, Dr. Moss, to 1B. So all of our teachers who would like to have the vaccine have just jumped up a great deal. With that, as I said in the last meeting, we're on the 5-yard line going in for a touchdown. I think now we're on the 3-yard line because we're getting closer and closer. So we can't lose hope. We can't just feel, oh boy, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and we're all going to get sick and we're all going to be in hospitals. That's not the case. We have to look at it that the glass is half full, and we are now showing progress. They've shut down Dodger Stadium's testing site. That is now a vaccination site. So those who want the vaccination can get it, and studies do show that that will help curb this nasty virus. I'm a very positive person. I always have been. I'm not going to let this beat me up. And I certainly hope it doesn't beat up all of you as well as our students. Remind them that there are a lot of good things going on that they can take part of. They're still kids. The sun's going to be out this week. We're going to have close to 80-degree weather. So there are a lot of things to be positive about, and I think that's what we need to focus on. Thank you.
James?
I only have one thing to report. Last Wednesday, I think it was, I did a ride by at Mountain View. And I sort of had a brief conversation with the principal and a couple of teachers, but it was outside and everything seemed to be going okay. And that was about it.
Dr. Moss?
Indeed, hope is coming. And I believe that since we are in a new year, and not just with the change of the calendar, but overall, the information that we are receiving is certainly helping us to recognize that hope is coming. Mountain View School District has maintained an unwavering commitment to the education of our students, paired with the health of both our staff and our students. And all of our actions since March have focused on this commitment. Today, we continue to stand committed. We all want to return to in-person instruction as soon as safely possible. In Mountain View School District, we'll take the steps necessary to ensure educational access for our students while maintaining the health and safety of both staff and students. We do not yet know when our schools will be able to reopen safely in person. However, with the vaccination information we have received, we recognize that now our educators have moved up. Whereas before, looking at being in a group that could take us quite a while to get to educators, we now find ourselves in the next group coming up. And vaccination is going to be our ticket out of the pandemic. We know it's not going to necessarily be swift. We recognize it's a process, and it's two different times taking the vaccine, but that's hope. And we now see a time frame that leads to hope. The governor has provided us also rich information over the past week that provides us with hope, including all indicators from the governor's office and also from legislators. Everybody has anything to do with the schools, with our partners at CTA, CSBA, CSEA, and AXA, at the beginning of the 21-22 school year, which we think of as July 1st, even though the school students come back in August, is going to be a return to something that looks a lot more like normalcy than we have seen since the 12th of March of 2020. That should bring all of us hope. It's a place that we have been looking for. It's what we have been waiting for. It's something that as we've looked down the road, we're not sure when it's going to be. We have all faced immense struggles. Some of us have had health struggles. Some of us have had financial struggles. Everybody has watched businesses close, businesses change. We've had to shift our patterns, our behaviors. We have grandparents taking care of children and monitoring the educational process in the homes. We have parents who are working in all different situations, including one mother who shared with me that she works from the bathroom because it's quiet. So she goes into the bathroom and locks herself in. Her mother, so the children's grandmother, is the one who watches over the kids as they're doing their Zoom instruction at specific spots in the home to maximize the bandwidth, and it works well for their Wi-Fi. This was believe it was a lovely story. It was the parents saying, thank you, Mountain View School District, for all that you're doing and the fantastic things the teachers are doing. But the story was important because it highlights what we have all experienced to some degree since March of 2020. And now there's hope. So I want us to hold on to the hope. We don't want to trip at the finish line. We've got some work left to do. We need to get the distribution of vaccines and the availability across the board, and that is going to be coming. The Biden-Harris group also, as they're coming in, have discussed a wide range of ways to support all the states in our efforts to not only vaccinate, but also to provide additional testing opportunities and ongoing testing opportunities. So between our partners at the federal level, at the state level, and the county, and the support of our community, I think we can come together and say, indeed, hope, and continue to hope. We see those glimmers of light, and it isn't as far off as we once thought it was. I would like to thank the Board of Trustees for your leadership during this incredibly trying time. And I would like to thank again all of our teachers, all of our support staff, and our administrators for all the work they have done to make this a possibility during these incredibly challenging times. I know we all look for those glimmers of light and hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Jeremy? Stephen? Karen? Jan? All right. All right. Next item is consent agenda. Unless a trustee, the superintendent, or the public has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent agenda, items that are considered routine in nature are approved at one time by the governing board. Is there any item that anybody wishes to have withdrawn for consideration? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, who's second? Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? We're now going to adjourn to closed session. We have a rather robust closed session agenda items. So we'll adjourn the regular session. Next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees will be on Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Method to be determined, but that is a Tuesday. And so everyone have a safe evening and week, and take care of yourselves and your families. So we'll go in the closed session in there. Thank you.